Let's turn and get more reaction now from Amit Daryanani. He's a fundamental research analyst at Evercore ISI. Amit, it's good to have you. I think, what is $429 is the price point? Is that a little high?
It's only higher than the $399 they had, I guess, the last time around, right? But it's about an 8% uplift. Listen, I would argue it's not terribly different than what they've been doing with their entire product launch the last 6-9 months. They've slowly been creeping up the ASPs. It is, Steve talked about 5G. The 5G bill of material is somewhat higher. I suspect that is really what's driving a lot of these decisions on their part. But it's still going to be the most attractive entry point in the iPhone lineup out there.
What do you make of Apple stock right now, down 7% over the past week, but positive at least this afternoon?
Yeah, and it's by the way, I think it's outperformed the broader markets and the large cap tech peers rather nicely as well. The macro has been a little volatile to say the least, right? What I would say is, if this was a normal year, or if there is one of those years ever, this would be the year you should be attracted and own Apple because of a string of new products that are going to come out, right? iPhone 14 that comes out is kind of the tick of the TikTok cycle. It should be very material. You have an AR, VR headset that we think will come out by the end of the year. And then you're going to have a very, I think, sizable capital allocation update in April when they report their earnings as well. So these are things generally you want to be more positively biased to Apple versus not. We think the stock continues to do well. The stock should work on the 2-10 price point, and you should get good demand tailwinds through the rest of the year.
And they made a point of saying that the iPhone SE they just introduced will include 5G, but as Joanna Stern reiterated this morning, she's not sure that's really moving the needle for anybody at this point.
Yeah, I have the latest, greatest iPhone. I'm not sure if I use 5G functionality the way I should, or I'm not sure what the functionality is, right? I can download Netflix faster, I guess. Maybe that's the only upside I've seen. My kids get less irritated. But no, you're right. I think broadly, we are all searching for that killer app that can drive iPhone demand higher with the 5G upgrade cycle, right? Or with the 5G deployment. You haven't quite seen it yet, but that doesn't preclude the reality that iPhones are about 4 years old in the marketplace. Most consumers, the utilization rate of the iPhones has gone up dramatically through the pandemic, which means any phone that comes out, 5G or not, would have a lot of end demand right now.
Your price target is $210. What are the biggest headwinds for Apple to reach that target? Is it rates? Is it, supply chain, global consumer weakness at the very time they're trying to target that?
Yeah, what I'd say the biggest worry is the macro situation, right? And does that inevitably does that result in having some degree of a recession, if you may? And what happens to high-end consumer purchasing patterns through a recessionary environment, right? I would say that's one thing I worry about. The second thing I'd say we worry about, and this is a multiple curtailment factor, is the regulatory environment, right? Big tech, Apple especially, is in the crosshairs. What happens over there and the magnitude of that could impede the multiples. I'd say macro recession to high-end demand and regulatory environment are the two things that could prevent us to see the stock at 210.
So just real quickly then, how excited do you get when they're announcing this new iPad Air and it's going to have 5G? How big a product is that for Apple?
I think iPhone SE is an interesting product, right? We think they could sell 35 million units, which, at the ASPs they have, could be worth $10 to $15 billion, right? In the grand scheme of things, it's 4 or 5% of the revenue numbers, right? The iPad, the Macs are, so I would actually take a different perspective. I think it's a very interesting time to provide a refreshed lineup of iPads and Macs, especially as companies start to go back to their office and realize their hardware is 3 years old and too outdated. This actually may be a great time for them to cross that entry point.
That is a great point. I hadn't thought about that. The equipment's just been sitting here idle. A time for a refresh, right?
Exactly, and Apple has all the new products for you to go buy now.
How convenient. Amit, thank you so much for your time today. It's good to see you.